Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Kimball here. This video is in regards to an assignment that we're going to be working on in class together, dealing with thesis statements. We have been practicing thesis statements in class. We've been using the No Red Ink peer review process where we've been able to write, share with our peers, and then revise and edit, and then send that to me for final grading. We're going to continue that process. What I'm providing for you here is a list of several options. And whenever you see this, please do not panic. You are not going to be writing thesis statements for every one of these prompts. There are 46 prompts here. We may do a handful, maybe up to about 10 total over the next week, week and a half. But do not think we're going to be writing all of these. We are not. I'm going to help guide you through this process. And using these prompts, it'll give us an option in class to discuss. We'll do some of them together, and then you will be encouraged to maybe do some on your own. And eventually you will turn in a handful for actual submission and grade to me. Okay, so let me go through this. Inside of No Red Ink, I literally just copied and pasted some of their suggestions. So they have sections called On the Lighter Side. There are some prompts for literary analysis that you could apply to any material that we are reading. There's specific ones associated with Hamlet. And since our seniors are currently reading Hamlet, I thought that was appropriate. And then we did read Fahrenheit 451 in many of our classes. So that's also some familiar material. So those classes that have already read Fahrenheit 451, you may be able to use those. Again, we are not writing the full paper here. This would only be the thesis statements for a potential paper. So I'm not worried about having all the evidence or support ideas behind the thesis statement. We are only working and concentrating on developing the actual thesis statement. There are some associated with regarding technology or entertainment. I thought those were kind of interesting, so I chose a handful of those. And then we have some regarding politics and society, so just general needs. And then the learning and development idea, so some academic focused ones. And again, there are 46 total prompts here. We are not going to be writing every one of those. We are going to choose some, discuss them in class, and then I'll turn you loose with maybe just a small handful of them. The process, once we get to the point where we have decided on a prompt, students, you will take this page where it says student name, hour, and writing a thesis statement, and you will just work through each of these steps to develop a final draft of a thesis statement. So let me go through the steps with you real quickly, and I also have some examples or one example on the bottom of this document. So the first thing you're going to do is copy and paste your prompt there. The second thing is you're going to identify important prompt words or phrases. Whenever I was grading some previous ones, Mr. Spidell and I noticed that some people were not including the full, important information from the prompt. And if I was a reader, I would have no idea what you were actually talking about or referencing. It seems like you were just answering questions. So we want to avoid that. We want to make sure that we identify those important words or phrases that need to be a part of your thesis statement. This will be a chance for you to do that here. Step 3 gives you a chance to write out some of your opinions. You may have multiple opinions on a specific topic. Go ahead and use several of them if you want to. Write them down. And then after you write them down, you can choose which one is going to be the more dominant opinion that you might turn into a thesis statement. Number 4 gives you a chance to step outside of your shoes and step into someone else's shoes and see how another person might address your topic. So if it was an argumentative paper or just the idea of being controversial, someone has a different opinion than yours, this is your opportunity to clearly identify what another person might argue with you and your opinion. Step number 5, this is where you actually write out your combination of the prompt and your opinion. And it's your first draft of the thesis statement. Then you go to an editing and revising process. So you're going to identify if you have vague words or phrases, unnecessary words or phrases, redundant words or phrases. If you are writing a series of wordiness issues, for those of you who have done the work on No Red Ink, you know exactly what each one of those things are. We had a lot of preliminary work before we started writing our first thesis statements. And those were the lessons that were taught to you inside of No Red Ink. And then finally, is your statement clear and concise? So you being specific. with your language. Once you've identified that whole process of editing, then you have a final draft of your thesis statement. So that's what you're going to be doing. My example down here, I chose an example that I did not choose in that top 46. I copied and pasted the prompt from No Red Ink that said, explain to a school administrator the pros and cons of vending machines in school. Other options include dress codes, cell phones, or class pets, where you could just open that up and choose different ones if we wanted to. But that is literally how it was worded inside of No Red Ink, and I chose that prompt. Number two, I identified some keywords that I need to have in my prompt. So I know I need to have school administrator, and I might make that specific and include Mr. Braden or Mr. Roth or Mrs. Wolfle. I need to identify if I'm pro or con, and I'm doing a semantics thing here, advantage or disadvantage. I might reword that to advantage or disadvantage. Vending machines, dress code, cell phones, class pets. I chose class pets for how I'm going to move forward with this. And then in school needs to be in there too. Oh, apologize for that. I also identified my opinion. My opinion is that fish aquariums create calming sound in the classroom, which creates a peaceful environment in which to learn. So not only did I choose class pets for my option, but I narrowed my focus even more and chose fish aquariums. So I'm eliminating like puppies or cats or hamsters or some other things that might be included. And I narrowed it down to fish aquariums. Number four is where I step out of my own opinion and I look at the possible cons. Someone else might argue that fish aquariums create too much of a distractions and students couldn't learn. Another one is fish aquariums are too difficult to maintain and keep clean in an academic environment, taken away from academic time if you have to clean it. And C, sometimes fish actually die because of all the chemicals that are used in industrial cleaning supplies. And someone could very easily argue any of those points to my opinion, and that's perfectly fine. And then I finally write my first draft. In step 5, my first draft says, I believe that in order for Mr. Kimball's classroom to be more peaceful, Mr. Braden should allow Mr. Kimball to get a gigantic fish aquarium full of tropical fish and live water plants to calm students down during stressful academic units. There's a lot there. So do I have vague words? Not really vague words there, but I do have unnecessary words. I do have redundant words. I've used my name twice. I don't necessarily need to do that. And I do have wordiness. There's a lot of extra words that I have in that prompt that I don't necessarily need. And is my statement clear and concise? No, I could make it better and clean it up a little bit. So my final draft, after I would have worked with my original draft, I would have identified the unnecessary words, the redundant words, the wordiness, and then I would have a final draft that comes to Mr. Braden should allow Mr. Kimball to create a peaceful atmosphere by including a fish aquarium in the classroom. Okay. So hopefully you understand that whole process. I'm more concerned about the process than I am about writing the complete paper. So we're going to do this over and over and over again. This video will be a constant reminder for you. You can watch this as many times as you want to. It'll remind you of the process and what you need to do. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's get to work and we'll get some of these thesis statements completed in class together.